The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where we're devoted to conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. Today is Thursday, February 19th. My name is Dan Moulthrop. I'm the Chief Executive here. It is so great to have all of you with us today. I'm pleased to introduce our forum today. It's an exit interview of sorts with Mayor Justin M. Bibb's former Chief of Staff, Bradford Davy. About 6 weeks ago, in the pages of Crane's Cleveland Business, Mr. Davy offered some reflections on his time as Chief of Staff. He opened the essay discussing a print that hung on his office wall. It's titled Boy with Tire, and it's by artist Huey Lee Smith, who got his start as an artist in classes at the Cleveland Museum of Art, East Tech High School, and later the Cleveland Institute of Art. As you can see, the print depicts a solitary African-American boy, probably a teenager, in an empty street, his hand resting on a tire. And as Mr. Davy writes, quote, "It reads like a portrait of what happens when a city's disparities harden into daily loneliness." When he would catch a glimpse of the painting amidst the frenzy of the administration's work, Mr. Davy would hear the boy asking him questions. What have you accomplished? Why does my neighborhood still look this way? Today, we will hear answers to those and other questions. Bradford Davy served as Chief of Staff to Mayor Justin M. Bibb for the 4 years of his first term. Prior to that, Brad worked at the Fund for Our Economic Future and also the Center for Community Solutions. He has a master's degree in urban studies from Cleveland State University and a bachelor's from the University of Toledo. He grew up on the West Side and attended Brooklyn High School. I included that because everybody always wonders, if you grew up in Cleveland, where did you go to high school? Moderating the conversation is our good friend Brad Whitehead. He's managing director of the Site Readiness for Good Jobs Fund. A longtime leader in Cleveland's economic development scene, Brad founded and led the Fund for Our Economic Future, where he helped launch key intermediaries such as Team Neo, Magnet, and Jumpstart, to name a few. A quick reminder for our live stream audience, if you have a question for our speaker during the Q&A portion of the forum, you can text it to 330-541-5794, and City Club staff will work it into the program. Now, members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, members and friends, or friends of Brad Davy, not members of Brad Davy, friends, but members of the Davy family as well. Please join me in welcoming Brad and Brad.
Well, thank you, Dan, and it's good to see everybody here this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to this. And Brad, we go way back, way back. Yeah. And as I was thinking about this, I still remember your initial interview at the Fund for Economic Future. And I remember thinking, who is this guy? Dan, you left a lot out of the resume. I mean, this is a guy that had sold defense technology globally. You served on the board of the ACLU. You were a community organizer in East Cleveland. And you had absolutely zero traditional background in economic development. And yet, in the course of that, you pretty much answered every question with incredible bluntness, refreshing common sense, and just enough humor that made me nervous. And I still remember, I don't know if you remember this, but on your second day, we sent you out to Lorain County to speak to a group of about 150 to 200 people on the spatial aspects of economic development. The room was full of skeptical business and civic leaders, and you dazzled that day. And I remember thinking, this was the greatest hire, and I remember thinking, I will never follow this guy to a podium again. So today, I'm looking forward to talking to you, and we're going to see if you still got it.
Challenge accepted, Brad.
Okay. So this is an exit interview, and so I feel like we should begin with what everybody is actually wondering, is why you're stepping out. And what's the deal? Why stepping out? Why now? And please, let's not give the sort of LinkedIn version of the answer. Let's pretend that we're having coffee over here at Lionheart, and you're just telling me what the real skitty is.
I'm committed to not disappointing today. First, let me say thank you. It is truly an honor to be spending time having lunch with so many people that I love and respect. Brad reminded me that this is a real testament to the care of community because, you know, if this was 6 months ago, all of you would have to be here because you thought it was your way into City Hall. Today you're just here because you care, so I appreciate you. I am joined by so many of my friends and colleagues, many of my former bosses, some of my current bosses. I am not speaking of Mayor Justin Bibb. I'm speaking of the women in my life, my beautiful and lovely wife, Janine, my incredibly supportive mother, and my big sister, Tamika. And so thank you for being part of my journey. Let's get to it. Why did I leave? Democratic life offers a number of important characteristics. I think chief among them is that it's time limited. Terms create urgency, they create accountability, and they create a demand that we manage not just to keep things status quo, but to deliver. I wanted that same accountability for myself. What am I here to do? Who am I here to serve? For me, that was always the boy with tire. And so I wanted to create the kind of framework for myself that demanded that I stay focused. I also think that leadership fundamentally is a relay race, that part of what we should be doing is running our hardest at our work and then handing it to capable leaders ready to continue that journey. If I am to make a civic critique today, it's that Cleveland has been a little too comfortable with the idea of protection rather than progress. And so if I could have embodied a transition in which I was pouring myself into the work, and please know, this job is not a hobby, it's full immersion. When I hear a helicopter in the sky, I go outside and ask what's going on. When the trash isn't picked up, my neighbors are quick to ask me why. And for me, I wanted to be able to act with the same urgency that I did on day one. And that really meant that I needed to be shaping the work more than the work was shaping me. And I made this decision 2 times. On the day 5 years ago when Mayor Bibb asked me to be his chief of staff, and then I reaffirmed it again at the end of the term. And so proud of what we've accomplished together, proud to hand it to somebody ready to continue the work. And we should all be pouring ourselves into our work and then applying those talents elsewhere.
Yeah, great. So, a marathon that's comprised of shorter legs that different people run. I like that. So let's pick up on this theme of urgency and ambition, which has been right there from the beginning. You were with the mayor from the very beginning. You helped formulate and you campaigned on this theme of Cleveland can't wait. I mean, that's what hooked me. I bet it hooked a lot of people in this room. Cleveland can't wait. And that wasn't exactly, let's circle back around to this one in Q4 kind of vibe. It was, let's do it and let's do it now. Yeah. It was generational ambition. So, and you talked about this in your Cranes reflection, and you lifted up young leadership, raising the bar, urgency, and being blunter with each other. And then Dan talked about the boy with tire as a reminder of the work to be done. So thinking of the boy with the tire, let's grade it honestly. Where did you live up to the ambition? And then we'll come back and where you kind of face the buzzsaw of reality.
Let's carry through the 4 terms. The idea of youthfulness and young leadership. I think we exceeded expectations and really set a national model for governing. We talked a little bit about how many young leaders that we had in City Hall, but I want to frame it for all of you. 7 members of the mayor's original cabinet were under the age of 40. We had 27 early and mid-career fellows who were decked against real and serious projects, and we held them accountable. 360 high school and college internships. We spend a lot of time in this town talking about what it means to uplift young people, but very rarely do we put them in positions where they have to achieve, because the work that they're doing is so consequential. And boy, I am incredibly proud of the young people that we have. So many of them are here today. I am in awe of what you do, and they are a testament to the fact that we need to continue to endow them with important work. On the statement of raising the bar, look, we dragged ourselves kicking and streaming into the 21st century on a number of topics. If you parked outside today, you didn't use coins. Pretty good. It's pretty good. But that isn't the only place that we raise the bar for our understanding. We took an entire property survey of the 160,000 properties that we have in the city of Cleveland, an audacious task, and we said we need to be able to do better with our data. Before, you would call the mayor's action center. Today, you log on 311 into a digital ticketing service, and you can track your problems the same way you track them on Amazon. We have raised the bar for what Clevelanders expect from themselves, and we have demanded that everyone in City Hall expect more from their work product. On urgency, look, I can give you statistics on how we increased our time to hire from 146 days at its peak. That means you raised your hand and said, I want to serve Clevelanders. And it wasn't until 6 months later you were allowed to join our workforce. We've gotten that down to 80 days. That's the kind of urgency that our moment demands. Have we missed? Certainly. Is there more to do? Absolutely. But by way of setting an agenda and running very hard towards meeting it, I think that we have punched above our weight, and I'm incredibly proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
Okay, so let's come back to the boy. He probably lived in a house that was filled with lead. What are some of the hard lessons? We saw this week that the state of Ohio pulled back lead funding, for instance. Where did reality kind of impose its will on you, and what have you learned from that?
First, I often hear our work graded in wins and losses. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to reject the premise. I'm going to reject the premise entirely. We live and work in the laboratory of democracy, where we are testing new ideas inside of our civic ecosystem. The preamble to the American Constitution reads that we are going to live in a constant state of perfecting our union. That means that there are no wins and losses. There are only opportunities for us to do better on behalf of our people, to enrich our communities, and hold ourselves to a higher standard. But alas, Brad, I imagine that will not satisfy you. My romantic view of American democracy is not enough. They served chicken today, Dan. He wants red meat, so let's put it on the table. Let's put it on the table. Where have we really exceeded expectations, and where have we failed?
Right.
I'm going to start with the wins. I'm in politics, no surprise. The Site Readiness Fund for Good Jobs, 3,500 acres of underutilized industrial land that once fueled the American economy, sitting vacant. You set out a goal with the mayor of 1,000 parcels to be redeveloped to turn into family-sustaining jobs. 300 of those are under development right now, with real businesses waiting to return jobs to our communities. We have landed the plane on Home for Every Neighbor, an ambitious agenda that was meant to house 150 of our hardest to house residents. Set a goal of 18 months, delivered in less than 12. We are holding landlords accountable in ways that we never have before. If you are going to own a property in the city of Cleveland, you are going to need to have a local agent in charge, because when you aren't doing your job, Sally Martin's going to call you. She's a tough little lady. And we have developed incredible narrative change. Please know this. Please know this. Around the United States, people are talking more positively about Cleveland than they have in the last half century. And that is because we have a mayor who has gotten on the plane and been a real ambassador for our work. And that is important. And it shows up in our economy through things like Destination Cleveland and tourism management. But we failed to. We failed to. Last week, I took my daughter for her one-year checkup. And she took her lead test, like all the other kids who are coming of age. And I held my breath, baited, like many parents around Cleveland, concerned that her lead levels would be elevated, because we live in a century home in the city. Thank God she didn't. But I know that that is not the reality for many parents. And so we have let them down. We've let them down. And if we have done anything as an administration, we have held ourselves to a high accountability standard. And so, like the mayor said at his budget table last week, I will say it to you today. As I left City Hall, Ryan Puente, my replacement, said, what didn't you accomplish? Every night I go to bed thinking about lead. Every night. It is our responsibility. Know this. Know this. Most of our housing stock is old. And we will not remediate ourselves out of this problem. Overcoming lead requires us to build new. It requires us to demo. It requires us to abate. It requires landlords with the ability to do so to invest in their properties. It requires physicians to be proactive with their patients, to talk about what it means to protect themselves. It requires corporations with intrinsic connection to the problem, to step up more. But the buck stops with us. We own this problem. We need to get out of our own way. We need to spend the money quicker. We need to be less risk averse and focus on the boy with the tire and his brother and his sister and his neighbors, who unfortunately are not going to be as lucky as my daughter. It's our fault. That's it.
Thank you. And I can assure you, when Sally Martin calls, anybody's frightened. So. Talk about reflecting every night on the lead issue, for example. I'm just curious, you worked in the private sector, you worked in the civic sector, you worked in the philanthropic sector. Government's different, and I'm curious what you learned about yourself having been inside government and City Hall.
Personal reflection. I learned that I was enough. The job fundamentally taught me that I had the ability to lead in myself. And I think I moved away from auditioning for leadership and started practicing it in the ways that I know how, to be an authentic and empathetic leader, someone who challenges my teammates but invites challenge back, and someone who hopes to inspire. I also learned that my greatest strength is working through others. When I can apply my best attributes and my brilliance to unlocking other people's brilliance, that's when I'm truly thriving. And I'm not interested in being a hero. I'm interested in being a multiplier, and I think I do it pretty well. I also learned that I have very little patience for progressivism over pragmatism. Anyone who is interested in dogma, who is not interested in concession when it means others will suffer, is not a person I'm interested in having a conversation with. And so I have tried every day to be very, very clear that our work is to solve problems. People aren't interested in us opining on our opinions, although I think I'm doing an okay job.
Yeah.
They're interested on delivery. And so pragmatism is demanded in this moment, and we should do it more.
Yeah, just thinking of the Brad Davy eye rolls. You know you hit it when you get the Brad. You know you've kind of hit the overly idealistic when you get the Brad Davy eye roll.
Tough.
And it is an interesting reflection about this ability to attract talent. I've always thought there are the two kinds of leaders: those that realize if you hire people smarter than you, you're going to do great. If you're threatened by people smarter than you, you're ultimately self-limited. And figured that out with you, and you seem to have figured it out with your team, so that's great. So let's talk a little bit about you and your relationship with the mayor. You were certainly the person who, you probably know him about as well as anybody other than his family on this planet. You're the first in the room, the last to leave. What's something about this mayor that people don't maybe understand or appreciate, or what do they get wrong that you wish they better understood?
I wish people understood what a triumph, what an accomplishment it is to be a young black leader with hope. I think about the worlds in which we have existed, where optimism is not in abundance. And yet every day, when cynicism is louder than hope, Justin Bibb chooses hope. One of his greatest abilities is to see what institutions and people can be before they see it in themselves. One of the great traditions that we have in City Hall is when a cabinet official is leaving, the mayor presents him with a proclamation. There's this beautiful reflection between both of them in front of the cabinet. The highest performing chiefs always end their conversations the same way. Justin Bibb called me. He asked me to serve. I told him I couldn't do the job. He told me why I could. That is the power of Justin Bibb. And I don't know about all of you, but I think we could all use a few more people in our lives telling you about the power of the possible. And so what I hope we all understand is that there is not naivety in optimism. It's born out of lived experience that shows us what we can be and what we can do. And there is no empty suit there. There is just a push for better. It's what I want you to know about my friend Justin Bibb.
That's great. So I'm sure you are aligned 99.9% of the time. Where did you have to push him the hardest, would you say? And were there any moments that you'd care to share in this safe space where you had to bite your tongue?
Well, it's easy when the mayor's never wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I had the mayor over, the mayor and his partner, over for a bottle of wine and a reflection once I transitioned, and we talked a little bit about our time together, how we grew as men and what we hoped for each other in the future. We made commitments that we would be on this journey for the long haul, and that is true. We are in lockstep. And we talked a little bit about this. Where did we disagree? And we couldn't think of a specific time where we were fundamentally opposed. I think where the mayor and I differ is the ways in which we want to communicate and express the opinions. I think how matters. I think the mayor believes that how matters. Oftentimes, I think it's important to let people know, very, very bluntly and protectively why they're wrong. And sometimes people need to feel a little bit of that weight. The mayor's perspective, and I think it is obviously typically the right one, and the one that brings the most people along with them, is to be more encouraging and more optimistic and hopeful in those interrogations. So not so much on the content. I think that we are generally aligned on what it is that we hoped to do. It was the style in which we would communicate that to the public. Safe answer? Did I do okay?
Yeah. I was always impressed because I'd be in a meeting with you and you'd be talking about, we're going to take it to these people, and then later it was something very judicious that was done. And Oh, that went through the translation machine. Probably
I got into too many scuffles as a kid. So,
Yeah. So what was the best advice you got as you were coming into the role?
Many of you know that I served as the mayor's transition manager. Very intense periods of time. You essentially have to reseat an entire senior leadership team, and you need to build the plane while you're flying. The operations don't stop, but you still need to set a new strategy and a direction. You need to meet new teammates. There's not a lot of people who have been through that before. And so I didn't get a ton of verbal advice. The thing that truly stuck with me was inaction. Many of you might know Sharon Dumas, long-term finance director for the city of Cleveland, chief of staff, was with Mayor Jackson the entire term, started her service in 1999, and served until she was finished. I would call her during the transition. She had this characteristic way of answering the call. She would say, "Dumas," which was fascinating because it both told you who she was, encourage you to tell her who you were, and in just one word, her last name basically told you to get to the point. I would say, "Chief, this is Brad with Mayor Bibb's team," and she would say, "Dear, how can I help you?" And then she would listen. She would set expectations on what she could deliver. She would call me back. And it wasn't until months later that I realized the power in that. Sharon was an outgoing chief of staff who had served her people dutifully. She was dealing with tremendous personal loss, death in her personal life. And she was answering the phone for a dude who had random questions just because he hadn't been there before. And it was months later when I realized that that's exactly what I would have to do every day. I would have to answer the phone for people who had no context, no idea what my day was like. And they would have an issue that was important to them. And it was important, even if it wasn't inherently important to me. And I needed to see them, and they needed to be heard, and they needed to be listened to. It wasn't until about a month or two ago when I saw Michael Cox, the former public works director, in an elevator. We were catching up, and he said to me, "Brad, I had a constituent who had a concern, and I told them to go down to City Hall, ask for Brad Davy, tell him what your problem was. He'll listen, he'll treat you decent, and if you can figure it out, he will." And that was a moment that I truly felt like I lived up to the advice that I got from Sharon. So if she is out there, thank you for your service.
Yeah. So somebody who is out here is Ryan Puente. Is that the advice you have for Ryan?
Shout out to Ryan Puente. Few people know what the job is. Very few. Ryan does. And few people are as humble and as committed as Ryan, because after a brutal campaign, 2% name ID, folks, I'll remind you every time, he was able to humble himself, step aside and serve. He helped me, he supported me, he took my call, and he's ready for the job, and I'm so happy and grateful for him. Me and Ryan play golf every Sunday morning at 6:05 a.m. at a small municipal course that I'm not going to tell you the name of because you'll ruin our time. And we talk about all of the things that really matter, life and family and staying healthy. Ryan doesn't need my advice. Ryan knows what the job and the work is. What I will tell Ryan is every day takes a lot. It takes more than you think that you're capable of. And then you find out that you're capable. And you can always call me. That's it.
Beautiful. So we'll turn to audience questions here in a minute, but I don't want the space and time to get away from us without addressing something that was in your op-ed. You challenge people to, quote unquote, say it in the boardroom. which I love that line. But then you didn't name names. So I thought we'd try it again. Where are we being too polite as a city? Schools, public safety, development, business leadership, philanthropy. Where do you think that Midwest nice may be holding us back?
Easy. The economy and building the economy of the future. We should celebrate success. There's real wins to be proud of. But I often ask myself, are we building the economy of the future, or are we building a high-quality conversation about the economy of the future? We understand the metrics that drive inclusive growth, communicate about them. We opine about when we miss the mark and where we still have to grow. But what I am asking, what I am suggesting, is who is owning the metrics? Who is accountable to deliver these outcomes? Who is brave enough to say, these are ours, we will own them today, we will own them tomorrow, and we will own them in the future? And what organizations are building the mechanics, the mechanisms, the instruments, the tools, the work to deliver those? Folks, we also need to have an honest conversation about spatial economics. Regionalism has been driving the bus for a long time, and it's time to give the keys back to the city. We have this agnosticism to location. It is not true. It's not true. Go to Cleveland State, right on the corner, my institution. Study location quotients. This isn't me. There's much smarter guys, right, who talk about this stuff. We cannot be agnostic to location investments any longer. My final point is to all of you, civic trustees, leaders, so many pins, so many suits. Organizations that depend on each other to invest and stay afloat. Important work. Important work. But I wrote the paragraph after I had a private dinner, so I won't name the person. Powerful CEO, traditionally powerful in every single way. He was talking about his frustration with the board that he's on, about their lack of vision and execution. And I pressed him, why aren't you doing anything about this? They expressed all of the negative externalities that come with speaking up in a boardroom. I thought, wow. If you knew what it took for so many of us to get here, you would have a little bit more bravery, wouldn't you? I know political calculus. It's the place I live and operate. I understand risk. But what I also understand is the boy in the painting that was up there earlier depends on all of us. Every single one of us. And whether we're proximate to the problem or we're in this very nice ballroom eating a very nice lunch, we owe a debt to them. And so I implore us, folks, ask the question. We set out to do something. Have we done it? If we haven't, why? If you can't answer that question for me, then we need to have a real conversation about where we should put our investments, because the work is too important. Say it in the boardroom, y'all. You can do it. Look at me, I just did.
So we're about to begin the audience Q&A. For those of us joining via our live stream audience, I'm Brad Whitehead, Managing Director of the Site Readiness for Good Jobs Fund, joining on the stage with Bradford Davy, the former Chief of Staff of the City of Cleveland. We're reflecting on his tenure as Mayor Bibb's cabinet and discussing what's next for Cleveland. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, and those joining us via our live stream at cityclub.org. If you'd like to text a question, please text it to 330-541-5794, and City Club staff will try to work it into the program. So may we have the first question for Mr. Davy?
Hello. Our first question is a test question. It says, what part of the job required the most personal sacrifice or emotional resilience that people rarely see?
Yeah. You know, I think about the hardest days in the job. Cyber attack. Foreign actors have infiltrated your system. They're going to want ransom. It's going to be down. We don't know how long. Think about our snow day on MLK Day, the first year. We had no muscle memory. We were just learning about our fleet and our routes. We didn't know what was to come. Those are hard days, but the hardest ones are the ones where we have to confront human loss and tragedy. Think about our first night in office when we were gathered for January 1st, a New Year's Day celebration, and we found out that Officer Bartek was killed in the line of duty. I think about on July 4th when I woke up to a call that Officer Ritter had passed away in service. I think about one of my hardest days on the job when I was entering one of the most tense negotiations with the Cleveland Browns. I was just about to open the door to the room, and I had found out that a young staff member, Ellen Baker, had tragically passed. You know, it is the reality of squaring the pain and human suffering that our work lives in, and recognizing that the mundane task of administration still needs to be done. And what I would say to all of you is recognize that every bureaucrat who is walking inside of City Hall today is living with a story of loss, of pain, is confronting a tragedy. We step inside of our work every day to confront intractable problems in the human condition. I'm talking about poverty. I'm talking about homelessness. I'm talking about violence. And then we are going back to do administrative tasks. And so for any of the bureaucrats that are listening, to my friends that are here in the audience, I see you. If you are not one of them, if you haven't served, what I would say to you is hug a bureaucrat. They do tremendous work.
I'm from Akron, home of Purell and LeBron. Okay, have to say that. I'm wondering if you could share with us the role of communication, speaking, visibility to a mayor or an elected official. We don't see them do the job, in their office. So how important is the speaking, the communication, and being visible?
Great question. We have wonderful homes here. We're happy to show you a couple if you're ever thinking about relocating.
Down on my drive to the city club.
Let's figure it out. We'll figure it out together. Great question. So important. And too often it's brushed over as if communication modalities are just nice to have, but they're not. In fact, I think one of the great failures in American government right now is that many people, constituents, residents, feel like they're being lied to. They're not being told the full story. And some of that is true. I think there's a lot of cases that at the federal level we can say that we feel like we're being lied to. But on the local level, sometimes we're reluctant to tell the whole story because the whole story is so complex. The lead story is so complex, and the attention span is so short. And so, I think too often we're quick to just brush over this idea of communication. For us, it's been really important, telling the story, giving the narrative, giving context, explaining the why, owning the wins, owning the losses, and really talking about how we got there. In addition to having an incredible spokesperson in the mayor, truly one of the best cheerleaders Cleveland has ever had, there is an expectation at Cleveland City Hall that our chiefs and our directors are going to be on the front line of communications. Our directors and chiefs sit at every committee table. They are in the field during our summer safety walks. They are required to attend every mayoral town hall because you need to be hearing the work firsthand from the people that are doing it. And once you get to know them more proximately, you recognize what committed and selfless individuals that they are, and you see the work differently. So I think it's a critical piece. We need more great communications professionals in the work. And if you're a communications professional without a deep discipline in a subject, I would encourage you to still think about City Hall as a place for you, because we need communicators at every department.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine, and I want to thank you for addressing the lead issue directly. And I want to commend the city for bringing on Next Generation Construction for taking on that work. I think that kind of intervention is necessary. But my question today is, are there any other state or federal funds currently in jeopardy of being delayed or being returned? And what can we do to be proactive about that?
Yeah, shout out Shikori and Next Gen Construction, a great local firm, and excited to help them, to partner with them to do the work. The answer, quite frankly, is yes. The answer is, quite frankly, is yes. All of our grant money is under time limits, and we are committed to need to spend them. And so we have to solve this problem with urgency and all due diligent speed. But the truth of the matter is, whether it is a state, federal grant, the work is not just about utilizing and drawing down the capital from our federal partners. It is rehashing and reconfiguring how we're solving this problem and broadening the aperture. HUD notoriously and historically has been a tough to deal with department. It is unclear often about what the rules on spending money are, and the interpretations at the municipal level are different everywhere. And so HUD is not going to be the solution. Our solution is going to be an all of community. I didn't say an all of government. It's going to be an all of government, but an all of community approach to solve this. And again, it will not be done just by drawing down funds on rehab. It will be done on new builds. It will be done on demo. And it will be done on education.
If I could just ask a follow-up on that one. It strikes me in government that there's this conundrum of trying to kind of slash through the bureaucracy and just get stuff done.
Yeah.
Because everybody's frustrated how slowly it moves, and you see people swashbuckling their way through. But then on the other hand, you have this mindset of, look, bad things can happen, and we need to safeguard systems and ensure there's not corruption. And it seems to me it's the unique civic leader who can slash bureaucracy at the same time, not cutting corners and getting us into trouble. Something like lead, as you said, is a Gordian knot in many ways. But how do you think about that trade-off of fast versus we don't want to read the mayor or somebody else's name in the paper because we went so fast?
$2.5 billion budget, 4,000 employees, made up of lawyers, doctors, engineers, arborists, sanitation workers. In order to do our work, we need the skills of being able to identify the load capacity of a bridge at peak hours, while also being able to interpret air quality data to make deep decisions and advice to our constituents. We have to have layers of leaders who understand those technical skills and then can also manage up to communicate to the mayor. What I mean to suggest, Brad, is that at any given time, without the context of how much work that the city is carrying out effectively, how many big and small things that we are doing so well, you can isolate any given issue and raise your hand and say, why aren't you doing more here? It requires this broad aperture, this bigger perspective to really understand why things are going right and why things are going wrong. Why are we not cutting through the bureaucracy fast enough? Well, the truth is, in some ways, we are. There are many circumstances where we're cutting through the bureaucracy at light speed. It's usually the places where we can take more risk because the consequence isn't as great. But in a situation like lead, where the consequence is so high, we have to be really, really clear what it means to clear a house, and then that house turn out to not actually be cleared. And then that person lives in that house, suspecting that their home is abated, only to find out that it's not, and their kid is sick. And so the consequence is incredibly high. And the trade-off between those two things is the work of governing. And it is the executive decision-making that makes the role of mayor one of the hardest jobs in America.
Yeah.
Hi, Rashu Mahalha, passionate Clevelander. Bradford, I'm giving you a virtual hug.
Thank you, brother.
So, so I have a two-part question.
Yeah.
In some ways, I think you probably have a crystal ball. You've seen where we've been, where we are, and potentially where we're headed. So first part of my question is, if you look out 10 years, it's 2036. How big is the delta between where Cleveland can be and where we end up? How big is that delta? What defines the best version of us? And then in order to get there, what are the 2 or 3 pressure points that if we really leaned in on, it helps us inflect the story to the positive side? I'm just curious what you're seeing in the crystal ball.
I asked you the question. I ask all of you the question. Our collective ambition will determine how far we go. Will we succeed past our wildest dreams and find ourselves back where we were at the turn of the century when, our economy helped power the globe? Or will we define ourselves against pure cities? I don't know. That's a question for all of us. I believe, Rashu, that we have the potential in-house to do incredible things. I also believe that in order for us to get there, we need to open up our arms to the world. We need more folks. We need to be unabashed about growth. We need to welcome new residents, new ideas, new people to our civic ecosystem with open arms and say, what do you have for us and how can we help? And so if I had to answer where should we be pushing, it is we need to be unafraid about opening our doors for growth, and we need to be unafraid about holding ourselves accountable to get there. A little more courage.
Okay, we have another test question. It says, there has been an increasing attack on public service and inefficient and wasteful, not just federally, but also locally. What have you seen during your term? And what can we all do to support and restore trust in the importance of public service for the benefit of democracy?
What have I seen? I've seen Mary McNamara, Director of Aging, put together a program that asks residents to help shovel the driveways of their elderly neighbors. And then I've watched the Director of Public Works, who has a tremendous amount of responsibility, sign up and do it himself. I've seen staff people answer their phone at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning simply to answer a constituent's concern. I've watched the mayor go door to door in communities and ask residents what mattered to them, only to come back to City Hall that night and ask the director to solve the problem. I've been in city council meetings where a concerned citizen talked about their problems with city government, and I've seen our directors run and talk to that person and have it solved before we got home that day. I once called Dr. David Margolius, an esteemed physician, the people's doctor during COVID. He once went, and I'm going to out you, doctor, once went into a homeless encampment and took a weapon, hid it, in order to protect the other people in that neighborhood that night when I called him and let him know that there was a complaint. What I know about city government, what I know about American government is we have certainly done our part. We have certainly done our part to lose your faith. But what I have seen is a group of selfless individuals who have given more than our community has ever appreciated them. And so if I have done anything in my op-ed, and if I have done anything as chief of staff, it has been my hope to represent them earnestly and their commitment and their work ethic. And so I would just say to the young people out there, keep the faith, please keep believing, because there is so much good to be done in the world, and government is a great place to go do it.
So a quick follow-up on that one, because these acts of heroism, in spite of it all, are inspiring for sure, but then we can't deny the fact that it can take so long to get a permit and things through and so forth. And I like to say that the mayor is dragging us kicking and screaming into the 20th century. Yeah. That was supposed to be a laugh line, thank you. And I'm just curious, if we wanted to get these, you talk about a modern city hall, what's the key to getting the systems to reinforce those heroes that you talk about?
Well, I started earlier about spending a season of life intensely pouring yourself into the work. And so I would say that there are a lot of experts here that can be very, very helpful. Give yourself to your city. Help us understand how to cut through the bureaucracy. Protect us when we're willing to take risk. I often hear political pundits, typically they catch us walking out of the mayor's office and put a microphone in our face, talk about what we have failed to do. Yet all of us have mouthpieces, all of us have podiums, all of us have places to talk about all of the good work that we've done. So provide some cover. If we are going to step out and take a risk with a new program or project, say that that's okay. Support us. Help us. There are real opportunities for other people to be the kinds of force multipliers that we need to be successful.
Hello, my name is Bill Patterson. I'm a retired banker and economics teacher. In order to see growth successfully, I think safety is an important component to individuals as well as to businesses. What is the status of Cleveland's safety and the future of it?
I think we've done a real job at increasing not just public safety outcomes, but the mechanics and the operations to deliver. The RISE initiative is one that has continued to invest in our public safety officers. Our recruitment numbers are up. They are up significantly from previous years. We have one of the highest homicide solve rates in the country. We continue to add more officers to our streets, and our homicide numbers are going in the right direction. You also see an increased presence in our business districts, and we have operated unilaterally. I want to make sure that I bold and underline this point. It is not popular to just shut down a business who is doing wrong, but we have taken real risks to say this is unacceptable in our communities. And what I will say, the intangible pieces that people don't see in Cleveland.com or show up in the numbers is how responsive we are. So many local businesses have called us when either tragedy has struck or their employees do not feel safe. And our public safety director and our chief of police are there every single time. I would highlight, I see, my wife is at Huntington Bank. I see my partners and friends at Huntington Bank here. We had a real issue with the Huntington Bank branch at Buckeye, and our corporate community raised their hand and said, this is not good enough. We have to close our branch. We said, well, don't do that. And they didn't. But they didn't on the heels of a deep and unabiding commitment and relationship that said, how can we work together to make sure that we secure this location? And so we need to be ultra responsive to our business community's needs, but we ultimately are responsible to our residents, and they need to feel safe too.
Okay. Our last question this afternoon is a test question. It says, would you consider running for office yourself one day?
I have.
Was that anonymous? Who put that?
It is.
I have no plans to run for office at this time. We have a fantastic mayor, and I think he's going to be there for a long time. So, for me, I will continue to do the good work behind the scenes and try to lead where I can. Thank you.
Our thanks to Bradford Davy and Brad Whitehead for a really illuminating conversation. Forums like this one are made possible thanks to generous support from individuals like all of you. You can learn more about how to become a guardian of free speech at cityclub.org. The City Club would like to welcome guests at tables hosted by the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga Land Bank, the Davy family, Greater Cleveland Partnership, Huntington, and the Site Readiness for Good Jobs Fund. Thank you all for being here. Yes, indeed. Next week at the City Club on Friday, February 27th, we'll continue our year-long celebration of America's semi-quincentennial with the America 250 Ohio Commission. In February, our state is recognizing Ohio's innovations and innovators, and we're pleased to welcome to the stage NASA Glenn Center's director, Dr. James Kenyon. He'll join us to discuss NASA's upcoming Artemis II mission and Ohio's legacy and future in aviation and space exploration. There's a lot more on the calendar, too. You can check it all out at cityclub.org. Once again, Brad, thank you. And thank you all, members and friends. And again, if any of you would like to stick around and join us in watching the women's hockey play for the gold, we'll be doing that right here momentarily. Until then, this forum is adjourned. Thanks so much.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.